First of all, sir, Himanshu Talukdar here. On behalf of Sportsy Pro, welcome all the esteemed panelists. Thank you so much for your patronage. You have been a great support for us on this particular platform, that is Global Soccer E-Conclave. I'd like to introduce first Kushal Das sir, General Secretary, All India Football Federation. Welcome, sir. Secondly, I would like to welcome Lieutenant General Manvinder Singh, sir, PVSM, AVSM, VSM. Welcome, sir. Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you.
I welcome Henry Manager, sir, Deputy Chairman, All India Football Federation Technical Committee. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. And I'd also like to welcome Shaji Prabhakaran, our long-standing partner at Football Delhi. Welcome, Shaji.
Thank you.
So initially, there was this thing, Pralay sir was supposed to attend, and then Manavinder sir is supposed to attend. But as Pralay sir is unwell and he underwent a major surgery a few days back, he is unable to attend. So Anirban sir is here on their behalf, attending the session on their behalf, and we welcome Anirban sir as well.
Thank you.
Sir, Kushal sir, I would like to initially request you to please make the inaugural remarks and quickly, give your overview feedback, sir, what you think you feel we should start with. Yeah, Kushal sir. I think Kushal sir is again.
I think we can wait till he rejoins, and
Right,
that way we can resume accordingly.
Yeah, I think we should wait for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In the meantime, what you can share some of the what is the e-soccer conclave? Share a bit on that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So, sir, what we had in mind is, sir, being a organization, when we conceptualized this particular event, we had one thing in mind, that is required rate of revenue to sustain, which is what we called R3. So what we decided is anybody in the field, whether it's in any form of sport, we decided we need to pay special attention now to R3, that is required rate of revenue to sustain operations at any particular organization. Now, here's the thing. What the idea is now is, we decided to sort of rename R3 into reboot, reorganize, or restart in different platforms, and how we can apply these three concepts to any particular football setup or any particular sports setup, and how we can resume the revenue and required rate of revenue we can resume. So basically what we decided is that should be the primary objective of the session, that is, and then from there we can take it forward. We can discuss with the esteemed panelists of 6 different sessions and one ending session called the Spotlight, and all the experts will present their views here. Once the experts are presenting their views, we can then take the best learnings out of those individual opinions and then apply it in order to reboot, reorganize, and restart. So that is the overall objective and the background of the conference, Global Soccer E-Conclave we have here. Quickly, what I'd like to do is, we still have Kushal sir and Mandar. Sir, I think till Kushal sir joins back and Mandar joins back, what I'd like to request is Manvinder sir to, I think again, quickly recap the objectives which sir said. I mean, sir, please sir, if you could.
Okay. Am I audible to you, Himanshu?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. Firstly, let me say to all esteemed panelists who are here, it's a delight to be on the web and to share some thoughts of mine with all of you. Unlike all of you and what I've been hearing right now, I'm not an expert. Though I've loved soccer, I've played soccer, but I'm not an expert. One will give more of his experiences from what I've seen soccer in the earlier days and to what soccer is now and how probably COVID has impacted and affected. So firstly, my greetings to all the panelists and all the experts and enthusiasts who will join the various sessions of the web subsequently. A great welcome to all of you on behalf of Sportseed Pro. I also compliment Sportseed Pro for this excellent initiative which they have taken. And I'm sure the knowledge learned will be a great help to not only the national football, but I think every other sports industry and sports loving people across the world. My gratitude also goes out to the All India Football Federation for their support, the Madhya Pradesh Football Association for their support, and all the knowledge partners and HR partners who have joined Sportseed Pro in this very interesting venture. Now, you're all experts. I don't have to talk about what COVID is all about. Everybody knows. But my thoughts on COVID, particularly when I look at what is happening in the defense services and how we connect with COVID in the kind of environment that it is, there are certain issues which are very relevant to the sports world because fitness is something very dear to us, and I suppose it's no different in the sports world. Whether this COVID was man-made or natural or how it emerged and where it emerged and where will it go is a matter of debate which will take its own time to materialize. Or the true impact of this will only sort of come out with time. I don't think major, let's say, a clear-cut way in which the coronavirus is moving and what is happening will be very clear in the next maybe 2 to 3 years and unlikely to be available before that. That's what I believe. And in any case, a lot is happening. A lot of research is going on, so things will keep evolving as I say things and in the next 2 to 3 years possibly. The true impact of this virus on the physiological conditions and the psychological conditions, and not only of the sports persons, but of the entire ecosystem, will possibly take a little time to sort of fructify. The second thing which seems to be coming very, very clearly is the correlation of the virus with respect to the social media and the media and the manner in which it functions, and what kind of, let's say, psychological pressures it is able to bring up. I think experts will have to look at this because this is where who's going to come to watch and who's not going to come to watch and how it will be managed, I think, will fall in place. So the impact of the virus in this new world of social media and media, or the mass media, will have to be taken in that light, and maybe some work will have to happen. Another thing which I see very categorically is, it's not just a disease. It is a destruction which is taking place. It's a destruction of ecosystems, of lifestyles, and the correlationship with all other subsystems that fall in place, gives this kind of a feeling to me. And it is not just a disease which can be handled by maybe some medicines and or therapeutic procedures and vaccines, as in how we are talking about, but it's going to alter way of lives, and that's what I seriously believe. When it comes to players in the ecosystem of football or soccer, one has seen very clearly that the support, infrastructure, and the financial conditions has completely collapsed. And therefore, I feel that alternatives will have to be worked out to see that whatever new system emerges is robust enough and sustainable enough to manage such kinds of multi-hazards that may emerge in the environment. And the last thing which I would like to say, what stands out is a clear distinction between urban and rural areas. Seems to me that football or soccer is totally cornered in urban areas with very little impact in rural areas now. And therefore it gives that, sort of a distinction between haves and have-nots, which seem to have gone in football now. Research and experts and financial experts will have to get into this to find out as to whether what I've just said is correct, not correct, and maybe some lessons will be drawn. As far as the vision of the Sports E-Pro is concerned, I think we have done an excellent job or excellent thought to bring the complete ecosystem onto one platform to assess, analyze, adapt, and reappear in a stronger format is what I gather is the vision of this e-conclave, and I'm sure it'll work out very well, and my best wishes to the e-conclave. I'll come to certain other challenges, Himanshu, if I may say that, because when you look at reorganizing football, or when All India Football Federation, or for that matter, anybody looks at reorganizing football, I'll give you just some thoughts which I had in mind. Firstly, it's a beautiful game. It's an amazing sports venture. It's loved by people across the world, in every part of the world. There is no doubt about it. And every age group. But what seems to be happening, as I said, is that it's increasingly got urbanized. In some countries where there are political influences, it seems to have been zonalized. And if I may say it so, it may not be appreciated by everybody, but it seems to have been corporatized. And within this, what seems to be happening is that heroes seem to be disappearing. I mean, we've all loved to know Maradona and the people like true heroes who played football with their skills and passion. But somewhere down the line, I don't see heroes much more nowadays, but it's more of managers and let's say the coaches and other people who seem to be hogging the limelight, and the heroes seem to be going away. Maybe I'm old-fashioned in this, and the new world may be looking at it differently, but this is what I felt. The second thing, which is, I think, a major challenge is entertainment is necessary. But if entertainment becomes a distraction, then I think we have to look into which format of entertainment we are going in. I suppose the seminar will deliberate, will focus in the short term, like the vision and the thoughts spelled out of reboot, redefine, reorient, maybe reinvent soccer in the manner in which this is going to be in the short. In the long term, my suggestion would be, I feel that we should look at the spread of soccer. Soccer must spread into different areas, into, in a much bigger scale than what it is today. And we need to spur the complete ecosystem of soccer, and particularly get the young boys, girls, the junior teams, and not concentrate on just the professional leagues and professional systems alone. Maybe the money is there, but this is my suggestion.
Yeah. Sir, quickly, Sir Kushal Das sir joined us back.
Yeah. Yes, I have. I unfortunately have a very unstable internet connection, but let's the journal continue.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. Now, within this, a sustainable system in the long term has to develop. Obviously, it will take time. I'm not saying that it will happen in the next 1 year or 1.5 years, because ultimately, how the COVID has, or the virus has gone into the human way of working, will have to emerge in terms of the overall policies, procedures, and practices of the football associations across the globe. And from that, we will have to adapt and readapt our own systems. This is what I personally feel. And lastly, it's been a major experience with us in the last 40 years that I served in the armed forces. I seriously believe that when any system disintegrates, I think it's time to introspect and look at strengthening our own institutions. And if this be the case, then we must look inwards. We must look at what we've been doing. I've tried to spell out a few challenges. There'll be many more. I've tried to spell out a few aspects of COVID, and there'll be many more. You know, for the shortage of time, one has only concentrated on a few. And as and when any more inputs are required, we'll be very happy to share. And thanks a lot. Wonderful giving this remark. And any other question that may be there, I mean, from whatever I've spoken, I'll be very glad to answer. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so Kushal Das sir, will come back to you now for the inauguration remarks and inauguration speech, sir.
Well, thank you. I apologize to start off with for the internet connectivity. I think I've had several meetings, never faced this before, but today seems to be a really bad day and connection is really unstable. So you may from time to time lose me, but I'll try and be brief and quick so that at least you can hear what I have to say. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this conference. And I'm very happy to be here and share some of my thoughts with some eminent panelists. And I think we are, as I heard part of the General's remarks, we're going through unprecedented times. Never seen this before. Maybe he has. I mean, he's slightly older than me, but I haven't seen anything like this. And I hope I don't see anything like this again. But what it has taught us is to introspect and look at life from a slightly different point of view and rediscover ourselves. And I think that is an important self-development process which has been initiated by this virus. There are lots of issues. The economy is in a big fix. We do not know when we will be able to resume our sporting activities with spectators. So there are lots of challenges, both for the sporting world and the world at large. So hopefully we will overcome this together. So I would not like to spend more time on this, but come back to the federation, the federation's objectives, goals, and what strategy is. I think it is important to put this in perspective. Really speaking, and some of the panelists here who have been associated with the AIFF will agree with me. Really speaking, the AIFF started only in 2007. Prior to that, we didn't have a proper office, or even the office moved where the secretary was placed. So, you know, if it was in Goa, the office moved to Goa. It was in Bengal, in Calcutta, Guwahati, so on and so forth. So therefore, it is only in 2007 that we had a proper building and we could start the operations. And my predecessor, of course, set in process the whole structure in terms of setting up departments, organizing AIFF. But of course, he moved on in 2010, and I joined in 2010 November. So there was a huge challenge. We had a situation where our commercial partner wanted to move away. The broadcast of the matches was not happening because the commercial partner owned the TV channel and they were not in a position to produce, or they didn't want to produce and broadcast the matches. So it was in a big state of flux, so to say. And of course, the infrastructure, what was available was also not up to the mark. Matches had to be played at 2:33. It was, in short, a lot of work needed to be done. Fortunately, we were able to find another commercial partner fairly quickly, and that is IMG Reliance, which is currently known as FSDL. So I think after we were able to find our commercial partner and stabilize our cash flows, it was then that we started building up on the AIFF, and we felt that the immediate necessity was to have a technical plan in place. And therefore, we appointed the first technical director. I mean, there have been other technical directors earlier, I believe, but they were associated with a specific function, that, like the national team, etc. And here was a technical director who came from Holland, who was looking at the overall ecosystem of Indian football. And I think in 2011-12, he started with his analysis and came up with a book called Lakshya, which actually set out the whole technical aspects of Indian football, what we should be doing, the youth development, the grassroots developments. And that was, we still follow that a lot now. And that was the fundamental basis on which we decided that what AIFF needed then was a strategic plan, a 4-year strategic plan, which encompassed not just the technical part, but everything from infrastructure, from developing, from youth football, from grassroots, from infrastructure, and hosting events. And that was part of the plan to host the Under-17 Men's World Cup in 2017. So this strategic plan was initially for 4 years, 2014 to 2018. I will not dwell too much on it because it's in the past, but basically the goal, the objectives, the primary objectives was to set up a proper administration structure, youth development, grassroots programs, coach education, and women's football also. And this is the time when we started the first women's league, the professional women's league called the Hero IWL. Without, again, going too much into details of the earlier strategic plan, I would just like to state that after a review, and this was actually, the strategic plan was prepared after a lot of consultation and discussion with various stakeholders. It took well over a year to prepare it. We have been able to at least successfully convert 80% of what our objectives was. And that was the analysis done with our consultants, with our stakeholders again. And that is when we have now launched the second strategic plan, which is from 2019 to 2022. And I will go briefly into the strategic plan, which has some basically 7 pillars which we are focused on. The first one, of course, is that we need to do a competition-based development. It's not enough to just to set academies, just to, of course, we are encouraging academies, etc. But the important thing is to have a competition-based development, which meant that it had to be in all age groups, increasing the number of teams playing in the youth competition. So we had the youth leagues, the under 13, under 15, and we wanted to spread it across the country. We have been fairly successful. There are more than 200 teams across the country which plays in this youth competitions, the 3 youth competitions, which is under 13, under 15, and under 18. And we have put in some stringent measures in terms of age verification, the TW3 bone test, as well as a fairly strong academy accreditation process, so that the teams which are participating actually follow the principles of youth development, of infrastructure, having the right infrastructure, right coaches, etc. So that was the focus primarily. In this strategic plan, to have a competition-based development rather than just simple academies and getting the players together for brief periods of time. And the idea is to actually enhance the duration of the competitions, so that it's not just a month or so, but try and play across the year, at least for 3-4 months. Now there are various issues as far as youth competitions are concerned. in terms of, examinations. The examination dates are also varies from state to state. So it's always, these are challenges which we have to overcome. But I think it has become a part of the Indian calendar now, youth development calendar. And so that is, I think, pretty much working well. We are trying to enhance the base, which I'll come to a little later. But I'd like to talk about the second pillar, which is the pursuit of excellence. It was very important that we have the right structure administratively, the secretariat have the right experts, the right professionals who can actually add value to the whole ecosystem of football, rather than just have a kind of a haphazard structure. So we actually have now about 60 or 70 professionals working for the AIFF in various departments. We have introduced technology in most of these departments and use technology a lot. There are professionals who are experts in their domain. For example, the central registration system, the competition management system, which are all now online, is manned by people who really understand and have had experience of doing this in the past. So that was the second pillar, so to say, the pursuit of excellence. The third pillar, which again we have talked about, the general has also mentioned that broad basing the game or going local, as we are used to the term now, is what we think is very important. It can't be centralized at the federation level. It must percolate down to the states, the various states. And that is our idea now, to decentralize, and at least the youth leagues. The professional leagues is a separate issue that I will discuss a little later. But ask the states to have more matches, conduct state leagues, which actually aligns with the national leagues, both for under 13, under 15, under 18. And the idea is that each team, each club who's playing the youth leagues should have a minimum of 30 to 35 matches a year, spread across the year, because that is the only way they can develop. Last year, we were able to do only 10 to 12 matches average. This season, we are going to increase it to about 20 matches through this decentralization process. It will take some time, but hopefully within 3 years or so, we will achieve our targeting, each team playing at least 35 to 40 matches a season, which is, I think, pretty much the standard which is followed by all football developed countries. And that is our objective to move to in the next 2 to 3 years. The fourth pillar, which we are concentrating on, is women's football. There was a bit of emphasis laid on women's football in the first strategic plan also. But now, I think the focus is much more. And just to give you an example, in 2019, the senior national women's team played 32 international matches compared to the 7 or 8 earlier in the earlier seasons. We are, of course, organizing the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in February, March 21. We have also started the Indian Women's League, the IWL, which is sponsored by Hero. And there are 12 there is a preliminary round where which is the state league basically, where nearly 90 teams participated. And at the final round, we had 12 teams. And this year's winner was, of course, a team from Kerala. So in that sense, women's football is now spreading. There were teams from Jharkhand, there were teams from Manipur, the normal football nations of India, Bengal, etc. But the fact that a Kerala team won is a very good sign of the game spreading and football being broad-based. Along with SAI, we also started the Khelo Under-17 Women's League, which was spread over 16 states. Sadly, with because of the COVID-19, we could not include that. And there was 80 to 90 matches still to be played, which we had to cancel considering the situation. But going forward, we will have with SAI to have a under 13, under 15, and under 17. I'm specifically talking about women's football here because I think that is, as I said, a very big focus area in the second strategic plan. Besides the FIFA Under 17 World Cup in 21, we have also got the hosting rights for the AFC Asian Cup in 2022. So there is a fair bit of activities happening on women's football, and we believe that women's football here has a very big potential. Currently ranked 55 in the world, and ranking is not everything. The kind of exposures they've started getting, I think it would be very beneficial to them, and I expect them to do quite in Asia soon. The under 17 girls also preparing well. We have a from Sweden, but sadly again the team disrupted the camps completely, and I'm hoping we can start soon. But again, it would completely depend on the guidelines from the government. The fifth, which we focused on, was infrastructure. Only with the Under 17 World Cup in 2018, the infrastructure was developed to a large extent. We have added on new venues now for the Under 17 Women's World Cup, that is Odisha and Ahmedabad. So we now have 7 to 8 world-class venues where we have international events, which is also being used by the professional teams in the professionals. So this focus on infrastructure is been, I think, has resulted in quality of and the spectator experience of watching football has improved that significantly. We are also building a national center of excellence in Kolkata. The West Bengal government has very kindly given us about 60 acres of land in Kolkata, and work is on now for the Center of Excellence, where all the national teams will come together from time to time for their training sessions, for their camps, etc. So this is, again, as I said, was a focus area in the second strategic plan, and I think things have improved quite a bit. The infrastructure, the stadiums, even the training ground available now across many of the cities is very good, and I think the states and the local competitions should utilize these infrastructure, the local leagues and competitions. So going forward, as I said, the other aspect which we thought is very, very important is technology, because India being such a vast country, unless you're properly connected, it makes it very difficult. And we introduced the central registration system some years back, about 2-3 years back. Teething problems initially, but right now I think it's all settled down, and the system is working much better. Attached to this is the competition management system, which helps us to allow to control competitions and look at ensure registration and the competition process is properly linked. And that, I think, has been it was a challenging aspect. But I think, again, many of the states are also using the competition management system, which is great. And I would urge all states to management system, central registration system, which will certainly help you in controlling, organizing competitions. The other aspect, as far as technology was concerned, we focused on was improving our website. One of the features which we have added to this website is a football, where people who go into the website can immediately locate the nearest football academy, the club, whatever they want to know about what is happening in football in their area or close to their vicinity of their area. And of course, we have tried to refine the fan experience, the stakeholders experience, and so far we've got a fairly positive view on this. But I would urge all of you to have a look at the website. Tell us what do you think can be improved, and we'll be very happy to improve that and to take into account our opinions and the recommendations. So essentially, these are the 7 pillars which we are focusing on in the strategic plan. And to summarize again, it is again broad basing the game, going local, as I mentioned, improving the infrastructure further, women's football, technology, and of course, improving the general experience of the fans, the stakeholders, etc. So this for the next 3 years is going to be our objective. On this, we also have created operational plans, and we have a system, a procedure called OKRs, which is objectives and key results, which is linked to the operational plan and to the strategic plan, and which are reviewed from time to time by the head of departments to, in our pursuit of excellence, so to say. Whatever things can be corrected are correct before they really go out of hand. And again, I think we've been able to control this quite well. This aspect has been well taken by the whole secretariat and the administration. And we have regular meetings. In fact, even during this COVID-19 situation, when we are all working from home, we've had 3 or 4 meetings with the HODs to discuss various aspects and how things are going, what we need to do once the situation normalizes. So that, in a nutshell, is our strategic plan. I think I would conclude by talking a little about 2 aspects, which I think would interest a lot of people. One is, of course, the national teams. So the national team, of course, impacted by the COVID-19. So we had a national team which was supposed to play the World Cup qualifiers. The matches were postponed. Now I believe the dates which AFC has given is that October and November, the matches can be held. But again, that is subject to government guidelines. So till we get clearance from the government in terms of whether sporting activities can be resumed in October or November, can't really be certain. The under 16 men's team is preparing for the AFC Championship, under 16 Championship, which is now in November 2020. And this is a qualification to the FIFA Under 17 World Cup. Last time, the Under 16 team failed to qualify by a whisker. The final match, they lost to South Korea by 1-0. But I think this time the team is much stronger, had a lot of exposure, and I believe that we have a good chance of qualifying to the FIFA Under 17 World Cup on merit, rather than getting to play it because we were the host, as is the case in 2017. So therefore, that is the primary activities of the senior men's team as well as the Under 16 team. There are no other immediate competitions. Of course, there is the FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup, for which the team was preparing, again disrupted because of. But we've had several discussions. We keep having several discussions with the technical people, especially the coach who is now currently in Sweden, and they keep doing online motivational exercises. They try and explain to them the how to keep fit in such times, how to control their diet. So the coach is confident that the team has not lost shape. As they're able to come back and start the camp, they should be able to hit the ground running, because they're keeping track of exactly all the activities the players are doing. In some cases, it's a little difficult because the connectivity in places like Northeast is not all that good. But I think that more or less the technical staff, the coaches, and the other technical support staff are satisfied with the way the team is shaping up. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. I would like to explain something about the league, which I think has been a vexed issue for quite some time in Indian football. I believe, and I'm talking about the professional leagues, we have now found a roadmap after various consultative processes with various stakeholders, and quickly explain now, and which has been agreed by all the stakeholders, all the clubs playing in the professional leagues, FIFA, AFC. We will continue with 2 leagues parallelly for another 2 years. This was the first year. It was actually for 3 years. This was the first year. So after that, another 2 years. The slots given to both the competitions have been decided. So the winner of the ISL league phase gets a AFC Champions League slot. The winner of the I-League gets a slot in the AFC, a direct slot in the AFC Cup competition. And the third slot, which is a playoff slot for the AFC Cup, is reserved for the winner of the ISL playoff stage. Now, if the winner of the ISL playoff stage and the league, ISL league, is the same club, then it goes back to the ISL stage, and the runners-up or the third place, if the runners-up is not available to play, will get the slot. That is the fundamental thing which has been accepted, and it's a special case for India. I mean, it was considering the situation in India that it had to be the special case had to be created. So after 3 years, there will be an automatic. The winner of the I-League will get an automatic chance to play in the ISL for the next 2 years. That means 3 years we have it parallelly. After that, 2 years, the winner will get an automatic slot to play in the ISL on sporting merits, which means that certain financial conditions which have to be fulfilled right now may not be required for the winner of the I-League going forward. And after that, it will be one league with promotion and relegation. So I think this is a roadmap which has been created after a lot of thought. I know there were a lot of issues, there were a lot of anxiousness about how this will work. FIFA, AFC were not happy because this is the only country which had 2 leagues running parallelly without any clear indication as to which was the top league. All that has been now settled, and I think hopefully we will be in a position now to take this forward and have the one single league after 3 to 4 years, which will have promotion and relegation. So this roadmap, I think, will benefit Indian football significantly. And while it has taken some time, I think it's better late than never. So those are the basic issues of Indian football. I don't want to take too much time now. I think I've already overshot my allotted time, but I thought it was important to give an idea of what was happening in Indian football in all aspects, development as well as professional leagues, national teams, etc. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to take it.
Yeah. So thank you, Kushal sir, for that in-depth analysis. And so now I would like to move on to Henry sir. I think, sir, you can initially begin with a 3 to 5 minute overview, and then we'll go through with one by one all the speakers, and then we'll come back with the questions at the end, sir.
Henry, you're muted. Unmute.
Yeah.
Fantastic session from Mr. Kushal Das. It was really enriching, and it shows how the All India Football Federation has evolved in times. I think the last decade, especially being a turning point for India, especially after getting the house, the AFF house located and professionals coming in. It is brilliant to know and understand the strategic program and how it is implemented. Though we will not be happy in saying that the entire thing has been implemented in the right or in the given time, but it is very promising that AFF has been working professionally on this entire strategic plan. But yes, coming to the event right now is that I'm very happy that Sports Seed has brought so much information to people around the world, showing what India is and how we are progressing in terms of the elite as well as the youth and grassroots levels. And I'm very happy to understand that there are various speakers going to speak on different subjects on this in this conclave, and I'm sure that this will help a lot of people during this pandemic restriction, which we are all confined to non-essential events like getting online on the Zoom or Microsoft Meet and other various mediums. But interestingly, what has happened is that it has brought the world together. It has brought us all very near. The networking has become very long. Who in the hell would understand that we would be online? I think 2 months back, we would never think about it. You know, it was only conferencing that was happening in the offices or sometimes on the WhatsApp or something of that sort. But getting into networking, I've been doing a lot of webinars and a lot of action for the management students. But if you look at every session is around 200, 300 kids and 300 enthusiasts. In one of the sessions, there were about 750 coaches who participated in the webinar. So we are trying to reconnect with people, and this is the best medium to move into that. Looking at the entire structure that Kushal Das just now mentioned, I was very happy that we are in a professional setup at the All India Football Federation. But when it comes down to implementing things at the state level and the district level, there's a lot of loopholes. There are a lot of there's a lot of wanting. You know, it's wanted because almost all of the state associations don't have a secretariat, a professional secretary, and manage things, and that's why the restriction. They like we talk about the 7 pillars, like we are with the football to the people. That's exactly what we want. There are various stakeholders who are duplicating things, and whether it is the government or the private parties or the association and the federation, I think we have to join hands right now with the government, because we talk about infrastructure, to sporting facilities, which is a fundamental right of every kid in the country, and we feel that the infrastructure is with the government, and the AF need to really join hands with the government. We have, maybe the World Cup has brought in a fantastic infrastructure. Look at the training sessions, you multiply by 4, there are 28 such infrastructures created in the country, which is of top class, I think world class, and they're maintained very well, because we are moving into the second World Cup, and then the AFC Asian Women's in 2020, which is first for AFF to bring in to people. The Under-17 World Cup really changed the entire ecosystem for football, because we were always finding there's a huge gap between school football and club football, and I think that was our major issue at the bottom of the pyramid, which was resolved by AFF by introducing the under 13, under 15, and under 18 in the boys category, which really career, or not career, but building up the character of the discipline of a player to get into the academies, get into the sports section of India. I would say that you look at the population of India, we all know that 50% of the population is below 25 years of age. And parent versus a grassroots and a lot of promotions and lot of promotion on sporting activities going on, entertainment activities. And these are the big segments which are going to grow in the near future. And we are encashing it. But the pandemic has put up a break to all our concerns, all our situation where we feel that it's unpredictable to find out the near future. We can just reimagine, or we can just imagine what can happen after post-COVID, but we don't know till somebody finds a vaccine for the entire stability to happen in the world. But this is a war, and cautions to see that lives are not endangered because of our hastefulness. We have to take our time, the precautions and the guidelines from the government and the authorities and the federation to really move in to say that we are ready to move on to the essential part of getting on to the field. On grassroots foods, that we talk about Maharashtra, which is one of the population of India. We have 21.5 million kids, that is 11.5 million as boys and 10 million as girls. But if you look at the entire India, I'm talking about between the age group of 6 to 17. If you talk about India, you multiply by 10. And there we have got 110 million boys and about 100.5 million girls, which are fantastic potential for. So important here is we're talking about post-pandemic, what is going to happen on the grassroots? What's going to happen about the coaches? It is such a situation that everybody's in the question mark as to what we can do. So the most important part today is the mental health of every athlete, every kid, every parent, every sportsman. Mental health is the most important part during this period, because the players are so anxious to get onto the ground. They cannot get onto the ground. They are into a monotonous, they're just doing their practice and fitness and doing all that. So grassroots don't know what to do. There's no curriculum created. We're talking about the corporates going in from work from home. Even the AIFF has implemented that to go work from home. We have to start to play from home. And that's something that the federation needs to motivate a lot of academies, a lot of centers, a lot of clubs to just engage the small kids, because they form the pyramid. If that mass engage the greatest icon in Indian football, whether it is Baichung Bhutia or Sunil Chhetri, we talk about 6 months, you don't engage the youngster, they will forget the names. And we need to really bring out total change in the entire outlook, how the approach that we are getting into the grassroots youth and the coach level. I'm very sure that the grassroots talks about individual growth or individual skills. And that is possible as a non-essential to get them into their house, try to play with the small juggles or to move and pass or drag the ball here and there. I think it's very important to get them engaged and work on their mental health. At this moment, though we are all very in a haste to get into the action, I feel improving the mental health and giving them more positiveness into the system is very important for us to keep them engaged. And that's exactly what I want to say is that, yes, it's possible, because today we're talking about technology. We're talking about technology, getting into every nook and corner. But there's a divide in technology. If you talk about urban and rural, there's a huge divide. Everybody does not have the technology available at their place. So there has to be certain amount of engagement on investment also, getting the PPE, that is the public-private partnerships, PPP partnerships inside. The government needs to chip into the centers. I think infrastructure, going local is the best part of it. I don't know how and when we are going to start off on the essential part of getting onto the field. But in the grassroots, in the coaching area, I think the coaches have done a job right from the second week of the lockdown. There has been a huge number of webinars conducted in edges with the All India Football Federation, the All India Football Coaching Associations. I think they have done a fantastic job to keep the coaches engaged. It's not only engaging the coaches, it's building up the network. And today, I feel that building up network becomes very important, bringing them closer, changing their, exchanging their ideas, and bringing in some sort of sense into standardizing thinking of people on the mental, how important the mental health of a kid or a player is, and of course the coach is, and how important it is to take precautions. Today we hear about Italy. We heard about Italy when they started the matches in Milan and 35,000 people were infected and players were infected and they had to close down. Suddenly all sporting activities have closed down. We are fighting a war. We have to be very clear that no bullet touches us and no virus. We have to, the title of this program of sports Sports Seed Pro is reboot. I think that's a very important part, is that we have to reboot, we have to reorganize, and we have to restart. But we are not gods. We have to just pray to the God to say that, okay, we will wait for the right time to really strike. But meanwhile, we will look after the mental health, which is very important. I'm time and again, I'm talking about the mental health. I'm sure Saji or Kushal and Lieutenant General and Mandar will agree to me. Mental health has become such an important thing. The volatility of losing jobs and not having a status, maybe the best of best, maybe the 5% of the entire economy would sustain with their financial powers, but the rest, 95% people are going to struggle, are going to cut. But with this, it's going to show us how passionate people are still attached to the game. There would be shedding of flesh over here because the AFF needs to, which are going with the football at these times. And that's going to be very interesting. There are going to be closed down. Coaches are going to be in a very important situation, whether they have to go do a normal job or they have to do coaching. I think the federation also, or the state associations and the government need to bring out a fundraiser, something of that sort, to really look after the welfare of the coaches, because they are going to be, 95 coaches are going to be hit because they run in private entities of sports centers or academies. And there is a cause of concern. There is a cause of collapse. There is cause of concern. But here, we have to get well. We have to work together. We have to use all our resources to see that we bounce back and we learn. This is a fantastic time to learn. There's a huge learning in this. There's a huge change happening in this. With the 200, 300 people at one forum on an online program. And this is a fantastic initiative that is taken by the Sports Seed Pro. But I think many of them are doing this, but slowly and steadily, this may also be a stalemate. We have to use newer methods to get into. So with this, I just conclude that it is important that the mental health has to be taken care. The networking has to be strong, not to take any haste in really moving out to the essential of getting onto the field. And health first and lives first should be our motto.
Thank you so much, Henry sir. I think Kushal Das sir has a pre-engagement. So he had requested that we can, he'll have to leave by now, and the rest of the panelists will continue. So quickly, I'd like to share the brochure of the Global Soccer E-Conclave. This is the cover of the brochure. This will be available and made available to all the respective panelists and attendees by tomorrow evening. We're going to email this to them. And we thank you, Kushal sir, for being there with us for this plenary session, taking out his valuable time. And we definitely look forward to doing this soon, very, very soon again with him on different topics.
thank you very much, and my pleasure to be in this conference. And I apologize for having to leave, but unfortunately there is another very urgent meeting which I have to attend. So thank you very much and all the best, and wish you success in this conclave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Prashant.
I think we can come to Mandar now. I think Mandar, you can give your initial comments around 3 to 5 minutes, and then we can take it forward.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting to hear Mr. Das and Henry. I think they have spoken on more or less most of the topics related to Indian football and the ecosystem. I would not like to repeat anything of that, but I would just like to look at it from the elite teams or the professional players that are playing currently with various clubs in India, how the situation or how it's impacted them or it's impacting them. And so to say, I think in terms of the Indian professional football scenario, as far as the ISL was concerned, I would say we were a bit lucky that we were able to complete the league before the down happened. So in a way, this period was more or less like a pre-season or an off-season for them to unwind or to get back their energies or so. So most of them are relaxing, and I think this is the right time for them to do that. And having said that, as I was mentioning earlier before we got online, I think most of the players now are professional, not just in terms of because they're getting paid, they consider themselves professionals, but I think they behave like professionals also, where they are responsible enough to take care of their diet, their health, the way they need to keep themselves fit. So that's something which I think every professional player which is currently in India is aware of, and is ensuring in whatever little means or resources that he has, he's able to keep himself fit and healthy. Club, what we do is when the players go for their off season, they are measured in terms of their weight, their fat percentage, etc. And knowing the fact that they are going to be going off season, when they report back to the for the pre-season, they are measured again. And if there is a certain difference in their weight or the fat percentage, certain fines are implied so that they keep themselves in check, because that's what a professional player should be doing. So in that way, on the 1st of June, our trainers share a program with each and every player, where the player likes to is supposed to do certain things. Obviously, this plan keeps on changing now with the current situation, because people will not be able to access gyms or will not be able to access grounds so easily. So it has to be in a limited resources at home or somewhere around the home, where in touch with the strength and conditioning team, and they are able to at least ensure that they are keeping themselves fit. So these are a few things that are happening on a profession. They need to keep themselves fit and healthy, with the uncertainty as to when the preseason will start, whether it's going to start maybe in July or August or September. Obviously, it all depends on when the government and the AIFF decide on the start date per se of the league, which then all the clubs will work backwards in terms of 6 to 8 weeks prior to that to start their preseason. Obviously, the international players need to come back into the country. So obviously, the international airports the international travel needs to be opened up for them to reach. So there are many such permutation combinations right now happening, and as clubs, every club, I'm pretty sure, is planning the ifs and buts and the various possibilities of how and when the season on field will start. So I think that's where most of the clubs and the elite athletes are currently functioning. Thank you.
Right. So, Mandar, quickly, I mean, taking this same thing forward, I mean, how do you foresee the fan engagement model to change? I mean, keeping in mind so much of digitalization which has happened over the past 2 months. I mean, how do you like foresee it happening? I mean, me being a personal fan of BFC, so how do you see that happening with the fans?
No, I think it's fan engagement or is anyways important. And in this current times when we are limited to have a interaction, or there could be a to be played behind closed doors because of the situation that we are in. In such circumstances, I think fan engagement through digital connect is what is going to be extremely important. It's not just with the fan engagement, as Henry was also mentioning about various engagements that are happening in terms of coaches education or coaches interaction. Uh, Now, when we look at the club in terms of our soccer school programs, which is the grassroots program, we have to ensure that the approach towards these kids is different to what it's towards the elite athletes. So if we can do some digital engagement where these kids can, we as a club can plan some sessions for them, live sessions digitally, where these guys can interact with the coaches and keep themselves, engaged, is one sort of fan engagement where you are trying to give back to the kids, in return of which the kids will end up, following the club or the any other club that they are supporting. So there are various ways where fan engagement will be important, apart from this scenario where we will have to ensure that we use the digital platforms to see if how we can keep them connected. As Henry was mentioning, there could be time where there could be a possibility where kids might just forget their icons, forget these names, forget these role models because they are not coming much in with these players. So various ways, as a club, this is the right time for us, I think, for the entire team back at the club to think about various ways how we can think going forward to come out, where we ensure that fans are not let down and the
Right.
fans are very much involved, even if physically they may not.
So I think uh, so next, yeah. Uh, so so sorry for that. I mean, my audio got disconnected as well. Yeah. So I think Saji, we request you to come in now and share your viewpoints, and I have a few questions for you as well. Please.
Thank you, Himanshu. Very good afternoon to everyone. It's a good initiative by Sports Speed Pro, and it's my pleasure to join you all and the esteemed panelist Henry, Mandar, General Manvinder Singh, and it was great listening to Kushal as well. No, I'll not like to repeat what Kushal said. Henry also, made his points very clear, and Mandar, of course, was very focused towards the professional aspect of, the elite athletes and his club and the fan engagement. Now, my point of view is that, since I was very closely associated with AIFF since 2004, and I've seen the journey from inside. Yeah, and it's for football in India. It's not an easy thing to manage, operate, organize things, and country like India is again a complex. Yeah, everything looks very simple from outside, but when you are in, we really know what are the challenges, and the challenges are not simple, not easy. Some of them are, basically uh, are there since long. Yeah. And Kushal has really put in, what they are focusing as a national federation. What are their goals? What are their visions? It's very clearly specified, and it's a document which is there for everyone to see. And what I have to say, being the head of one of the states association, What I can say is that at the state level, the challenges are much bigger than what it looks at the national level. Yeah, because AFF has moved last 15 years or so. They have progressed as an organization, but states remained there where it was, because at the state level, still it is run in a very amateur's way, and the structure is not there. And as Henry mentioned, there are associations where we don't have even full-time staff. So that we have to also understand, we sometimes we just blame every state association as they are doing some crimes. But the people there, they love the sport. Basically they are there, yeah. But we also have to be very realistic. Who is helping them? Who is hand holding them? Who is building their capacity? Who is saying, okay, you are doing very challenging thing, let me come and support you, yeah. And that's not the case, because states are ignored from even the state government. If you go to the state government, they really sometimes know, oh, this association exists, we really don't know something like this exists. So that's the structure we have built, which is unfortunate, which is that is what need to change. Because when we are operating in a state, we are saying, oh, we are a governing body of the state for football in that particular state. So whatever we are doing, we are doing to elevate the level of that state, yeah. And but there is no relationship there. There's no formal, informal, structural, no relationship. And every sports is like that. Maybe because of some politician, they might have some temporary arrangement, but nothing is which is structural, yeah. And that is what need to happen. And nobody putting their mind into it, because our states are bigger than all the European countries, most of the European countries, and each of the state can really do wonders. But it cannot happen demoralizing them, kind of uh, uh, finding fault. No, it's not. Because see, I was outside for long, then I'm inside. I've seen the national level, at the global level, and now at the state level. There's a massive work needs to happen there. And there are 99% of the people who are there, they really means from their heart want to do something there for football, and they're doing, they are putting their hard earned money to their club, yeah. And they are supporting the players. But what we need to do is, we need to build a capacity in them, and we have to show them what we can together achieve. That is very important. In every state, we need to form partnership, a collaborative approach, and that is what I'm trying to do. I can say partially successful, still long way to go. Because see, everyone just says, oh, you don't have an asset where you will play your games, yeah, where you will put your state teams into training, where you know so there are no assets available, and there is all the assets are with the government. Is government helping the associations to say, okay, this is, this association is created to manage, govern football. So okay, you manage this facility as well. And I'm really lucky that, because since Kiran Rijiju has come as a sports minister, he has really opened up, and we benefited that. And that I'm really thankful to him. He's so open, and as trying to do things which is the right thing, because we need to empower people who are uh, elected to do certain job, and who are an association who is responsible to do certain thing. And if empowerment happens, that way we can multiply things. And in my job, what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to empower as many people as possible. Because in association, typically what happens, we really don't welcome people in. That's unfortunate part. We think, it is our, kingdom. And that's most unfortunate part, because they really don't allow people. There are so many people working hard, outside, and they are doing much better work. And we need to really pat on their back and say, oh, doing great, how we can support. Rather than, what we do is we try to kill them, saying, you are trying to establish something, in contrary to what, what we think it is our job. No, so that's unfortunate mindset, which is, which is there since it's a legacy. People have created that legacy is okay. I am a president position means, everybody is like, has to be a fall on my feet and, do a dua salam, then only you get everything. That's unfortunate. That is a Britishers time mindset philosophy. Has to go. See, we are. Whoever has elected, they are not doing any obligation. You came your own. That to fight an election and you won. And that's open up. Yeah, and encourage people and uh, make it very inclusive. So that's where we need to change, and we need to collaborate, and we need to bring more people in. And funding is not a problem. See, we all cry, oh, nobody is funding us. There is no money involved. Cricket is taking everything. It is not like that. What is we need? When we discuss with the corporate need to see what we are. How we are structured, how we are governed. Are we doing something for the sport? How we are, perceived. These are the things in an organization, in an association, we need to change. And that's how the corporate will see, oh, we need to support them, we need to be part of them, and that is their responsibility. Let's encourage them. So this is, and there is long way to go. As General Manvinder Singh ji said, we need to really, go down. Though, see, we always say we have 1.35 billion people. We really don't have that kind of talent coming. We don't have 11 best players. The problem is still the percentage of children playing football is still insignificant.
Right.
And that too insignificant in a structured environment, in an organized environment. Yeah, we still have 5,000 to 7,000 or 8,000 coaches only. Can you think those 8,000 coaches can manage 5% of our population who wants to play football? No. There's a That's where we need to do a lot of thinking in terms of how we can engage more people. And then the government is at the state level, at the central level, how we can work as one, so that whatever resources they are putting in is goes in the right direction. Right now there are a lot of duplications happening. Yeah, there is no collaborative approach, as Henry mentioned before. Collaboration is not here. Everybody wants to make their point as they are going to produce next Messi. It is not going to happen that way. It is the structure which will produce players. It is not the standalone laboratories. We cannot create laboratories in football, because no laboratory can produce consistent players in sports or in football. Yeah, we need a structure, and the structure can be can come through a collaborative approach. Our football, more participation lies outside the structure than within the structure. Yeah, and how we can bring in, that is where we need to put a lot of effort, and that's how we will pool the resources in.
Correct.
Right
So,
now that's not happening.
yeah,
And
so, sir, I mean,
this is
sorry,
where we have to go and focus. And like like Mandar is here, his club Bangalore FC is one of the brightest things have come into Indian football, and they have challenged the status quo, and we have to challenge status quo at every level in Indian football. And that's how we will change. But definitely, what I see is that we will be something, a big power in football going forward. That is 100% sure, because the kind of people are coming in, and and that number of people coming in can only go 100 times up. If we open up, we have to open our door. We have to be inclusive, yeah, and we have to it's like we can become a talent hub for the world.
Right.
That is what we have.
Right.
Yeah? And that is where we will create much bigger impact. And I'm confident we can really do big things, and we have the right people. It's only how we can engage them, how we can motivate them, and how we really empower them. That's very important.
Right. Right. Thanks, Aji. I mean, so I'll quickly bring in Anirban sir for this, and I have a specific thing in mind for Anirban sir to explain. That is, in general, what sort of medical standard operating procedures do you think the footballing community should currently engage, so that, I mean, a lot of attendees are here, a lot of the speakers and everything would like to know your view on this. That is the standard medical operating procedures.
Yeah, thanks, Himanshu. It's greeting to everybody from National Institute of Sports. Thanks for having me in this conclave with all the esteemed panelists. I think it's a great idea to gather all those associated with football from different countries so that we can find a way out in the post-pandemic world, right? So, as a sports medicine specialist, I want to highlight few issues regarding your question. I think we all understand that the pandemic has caused a progressive shift of what we have come to expect as a social norm, and athletes are no different. And given the novel status of the virus, there is a dearth of scientific evidence also with regard to the role the sports participation and the physical activity play in the transmission of infection. So we have to keep in mind that part also. Now, as a response to this pandemic, FIFA has focused on 3 T, that is testing, tracing, and treatment. It also reiterates the fact that football should only occur at a time when all the health, social, as well as the economic benefits exceeds the risk of COVID-19. So we have to keep that also in mind. So I want to focus just 5-6 important points. First, how we emerge from a period of enforced restriction. This is a kind of enforced restriction on us. So we need to understand that we have to focus first on those regions where there is lower number of cases, and we can ease the restriction in a progressive and strategic fashion. Number one. Number two, we have to remember that this physical distancing norm and this enhanced standard of personal hygiene will not going to be end soon. And all these sporting activities needs to be done after a thorough risk assessment as advised by WHO regarding sporting participation and sporting event organization also. Now, second part is how we measure and how we can facilitate a return to participation. So for that, we need to understand the hygiene part as well as the physical distancing part, both in training as well as in the competitive environment. Testing, as mentioned by FIFA, is to be done where appropriate and as per the provision of the local health authority. The third point is the travel precaution, including the international travel. Next major point is how we assess the risk of football events. Again, WHO has set a criteria how you assess the risk before organizing an event. So you need to understand that we have to calculate that risk And we have to take care that we have all the mitigation measures in place before we conduct an event. The size of mass gathering, it also can be better mitigated by organizing the event behind a closed door. We all understand that. And the presence of vulnerable groups, maybe in the coaching staff, who are more than 65-year-old, those who are having pre-existing medical conditions, their number should be minimized as much as possible. The important point about players' health, fitness, and injury consideration. 2 points I need to, I want to focus, especially for those who are responsible for the health and well-being of the players. One, when the players are coming back, the detraining effect on them, because they are almost without training for last, at least without organized training for last 2 or 3 months. And number 2 is a thorough cardiovascular evaluation before an RTP has been made. So these 2 are the major points, at least for a sports medicine specialist working with a football team. For the amateur and grassroots football, again, it has to be done with a on a staged basis, rather. Individual training first, small group activity then, and followed by a larger group activity. Again, all those personal hygiene and physical distancing to be followed. It is easier to said than done, because physical distancing on football ground is not going to be easy to implement. We understand that. And we need to encourage the players for doing some self-checks so that they can do those self-checks on them, and thus we can prevent transmission among their teammates. So these are the few points I want to share with you regarding the resumption of football activity. I think I have answered your queries.
Yes, yes, thank you, Anirban. So I'd like to come back to Henry sir once, and kindly, sir, I mean, could you give us an insight into the CPD system for the coaches? That is something which you have got a lot of questions on. So if you could just briefly elaborate the CPD system.
So what is happening over here is that all the coaches who have been trained in the licensing up to E. So now you know that it's the lowest one is E, D, C, B, A, and professional license, out of which the professional license A, B, and C are being conducted by AFC, and the rest of them, the 2 conducted by India, the federation. So it's going to be interesting over here, because what happens once you do your license, you are not liable to do anything else, because you got a license. So there's no refresher course, there's no courses coming in, no updates, there's no best practices. There are so many things that are void in the system, which does not allow a person to grow inwardly or compulsorily. So that's the reason why it was brought to the notice of the entire committee and the coach education staff and the coach education department to say that we have to keep the coaches abreast with the latest updates, with the latest best practices and such things. So they need to know not only about the coaching, the best practices, but they need to know much more than that. Because today, if you look at coaching, is not about only going on the ground and coaching. Today, an analyst is a part of the coach. Today, the physiotherapist is a part of the coach, the psychologist, the trainer, and the nutritionist. There's a huge amount of departments within the coaching department where the coach is the head of this. And he needs to know each and every, briefly know, he has to know briefly about each and every responsibilities that takes him to a performance of a player. And that is very clear, that we need to educate our players and keep them into the mind of refreshing themselves time and again of things that are really wanted for the performance of the team, performance of the player, and performance of the entire community, wherever it is, whether it is a grassroots, whether it is youth, whether it's elite. And that's the reason why the CPD program has come into place. And it would be very soon mentored that the coaches will have to gain certain amount of points on their CPD, where they have undergone analyst course, or whether they've gone under the physiotherapy course or whatever it is, right from life-saving system to the enhancement of performance. He has to know everything. That's the reason why this program was brought into it, and I think it will be initiated very soon. And the best part is that during this pandemic time, the networking has become so strong that the AIFC has got into action, which is under the aegis of AIFF, who gets the support of AIFF to really bring out all these programs. And there are going to be various number of courses, various number of activities that a coach will have to undergo if he wants to be in the promotional list of getting from E to D, D to C, and so on. So it's no longer going to be that you got a license now, C license, after 3 years I'm going to do a B license, or maybe after 6 years I will do A license. So you will be abreast with all these activities and all these courses to enrich your personality, your ability to coach, and also to look at all the peripherals in the coaching aspect for the enhancement of the performance of players and the team.
Right. I mean, very insightful. Thank you for that. I'm sure this is going to make a lot of impact into the serious football coaches who like to keep themselves updated throughout and want to make a really good career out of this. This would be really, really valuable information for that. I think, so quickly, I'll just share one. I mean, you all might already know, the attendees might want to know this. Congratulations, Mandar, on BFC getting the ASC slot. So that is something which is excellent. I mean, we are looking forward to that. So keeping that in mind, I mean, just a quick question I have with you, like the social distancing and all these other things, I mean, already in place. In how do you think, I mean, in terms of structured football development model, footballer activities in terms of coaches and players in the immediate next season, what do you all have at VFC, especially in mind that, okay, this is how we're going to change our SOPs a little bit, and how exactly are you thinking? Like, quickly, briefly, I mean, if you could give us a little insight on that for the immediate next session, what you guys are thinking.
No, the basic thing as a club where we need to look into the effect of the pandemic will depend on every department of the club, whether it is the first team, the elite team that I spoke about, or our elite youth teams, or our grassroots, our soccer school programs, etc. So it will be a effort separately to look into each of these aspects differently. You cannot have the same SOP for everything, especially when we are looking at the soccer schools. The parents, as Dr. Malik was mentioning, you have to maintain a certain safety norms for the parents to have the confidence to send the kids to resume their soccer school training. At the end of the day, they are even hesitant to send to school right now for their education part, leave alone sending them for playing a sport. So how can we ensure that all the safety norms are in place so that the parents get the confidence to send the kids every evening for them to train? So that is one aspect which needs to be addressed. Henry was speaking about the mental aspect also. Now, when these kids are, staying away from the sport, we have a club psychologist who is continuously engaging herself. She's a lady, and she's continuously engaging with each academy kid of ours individually. The kids are still at Bellary. They are not been able to reach to their homes because they're all 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. So staying away from family, not able to train as normally they would have, it is important that you've got a psychologist who's continuously talking with them, giving them certain activities to be involved with, whether it could be a quiz or any sort of a thing. So keeping them engaged, keeping them in the right frame of mind, even when they come back again, is something which we have to think about. Obviously, as Mr. Malik mentioned about the athletes to be tested when they are back, which is a normal medical procedure that you do for every athlete that comes to before the season starts. So that is something which you have to look at the elite athletes, where when they come back, where a complete thorough medical checkup is done on them. So it's an approach which has to be done differently for different vertical of the club, and that's how. But for me, the primary thing is to have the confidence in the parents to ensure that the kids can come back. And it's actually difficult. I mean, we talk about these warriors, which are our medical staff who's taking care of the patients. But these kids also, I think, at times are are warriors, because it's very difficult for them to stay at home. It's difficult for them to go out and play that activity. And especially in families when these kids are, single children families, where it's difficult for a parent to keep the kid engaged for, 24/7. Maybe, some activity they will be engaged, but so it's important as a club that we contribute in this, where we ensure that these kids are kept engaged, and probably give that confidence to the parents that when activities finally start, these kids can come back onto the field and train. And talking about the staff, obviously coaches, as Henry was mentioning, the coaching staff has been engaged on various platforms to ensure, not only at a national level but every state level. Saji is heading the president of the Delhi Soccer Association, and is involved with FIFA. We are in Karnataka, where the Karnataka State Football Association is also having a platform where they're having the coaches engaged in various aspects, whether it's club administration, whether it's youth football, whether it is grassroots football, or with various forms. Henry was mentioning about the analytical aspect of football. So there are various ways where you have to ensure that your staff is also pretty much engaged with the activity, and or how they want to look at certain things, how they want to progress coming into the next season. So there is a lot of planning right now happening on various fronts, because now is the time for any which ways a plan for all the clubs, irrespective of the COVID situation, would have been an off-season time where they would have planned for the coming season. But now with the addition of because of the COVID situation, there is going to be a lot more importance on various other aspects, safety being the primary one.
Yeah, thank you, Mandar. Shaji, quickly, quickly and briefly, like, what sort of digital activities do you foresee should be implemented in the immediate future, so that the game sustains, like the entire football ecosystem sustains as in the immediate effect, if you think of?
See, it's a good question. Whether it was COVID or no COVID, digitization uh, is an integral part of now sports management. And without digitizing your processes, your operations, you will not be battle ready to meet the challenges and today's world. And we started our digitization process more than a year back, and we have a complete player registration system our own way, and we have the smart card system, and we are going to adopt the complete set of digitization in another 6 months, where we would like to do the maximum process through digital medium, because it is efficient, and it is productive, and it is accountable as well, which is very, and also improves the transparency in every aspect. Our associations, sports organizations, if they want to command that kind of respect, that kind of impact, then we need to digitize, and that would improve the transparency. And one more important point, we always talk about sports as a sports organization. you know we also need to think how we are helping the community as a sports organization. That is very important. We cannot always talk about our sports, no. That is not the right way to handle even the COVID situation. Is what we are doing for community is very important through sports. Yeah. And it is not necessary that every intervention has to be sport. Yeah. Because that is where we would be able to engage the community better. And this is where the whole focus is our going. Yeah. And that's why I don't restrict it to one aspect of sports. Whatever possible, you try to digitize within your own capacity, and also try to build go for a collaborative approach, because every association might not have the resources right now, but digitization can happen through collaboration, and it's a win-win situation for any other party as well.
Right, right, right. Thank you, Shaji, for that. I'd like to bring in Manvinder sir for one final thing. Before that, one small thing I would like to share quickly is we have a wish from Pralay Majumdar sir, and he has recently undergone a major surgery, and he's sporting obviously the Manchester United thing. So he has wished us his best of luck for the event, and he's also attending as an attendee as well. So we wish that you get well soon, sir, and you join us here very, very soon, sir. Yeah, Manvinder sir. So, sir, I mean, overall, what do you think should be now the way ahead for us in your vision and your perspective, sir?
Yeah, that's a interesting one, and if I can take a little time of yours and share some thoughts. Firstly, I think it's very important to look at certain issues which I had spoken about earlier. We need to identify the core challenges of soccer. And from that core challenges, I think we need to define the center of gravity. Where is the center of gravity and what needs to be done? Because somewhere down the line, I think there is something is going, in my view, a little amiss, which needs to be taken control of, is one. The second thing is, like Anirban said, and so many of the other panelists have said, that the situation with respect to COVID, the virus per se, is very unreliable. We just do not know which way it is going. How will it impact in the future? So therefore, I think it is necessary in the way ahead to focus on the short term to keep football or keep soccer going the way it is and try to keep evolving. But I think more important it is to do very elaborate research as to how will the actual long-term football or soccer look like in times to come. Will it be the same model or will it be a changed model? The third thing that I would like to say is everything cannot be aped from across the world. In my view, we got to Indianize a little bit. We got to look at our own, because different cultures, different ways of doing things. And let's stop aping everything from what is across or outside the boundaries of our country. In my view, that is also important. Innovation, you have already mentioned in your papers, some of them which I read. I think cricket has adapted, basketball has adapted, so many other sports and games have adapted. It seems surprising to me as to why soccer is so stuck. I think there is a need to look at shorter versions of the game. There is a need to look at lesser strength in the game so as to popularize it and increase the spread all around. That is what I'm trying to look at, and develop skills at the grassroots levels and local levels. There is also a need to undertake a set of trials before you move on further. I think in this, the medicine world, the nutrition world, every kind of the ecosystem, the playing ecosystem of the football or soccer will have to get involved to see as to where we are going to be headed. There is a need to look at partnering with local sports. I'll give you an example. I was in Bhutan some time back, and they have various events, but they bring in a little bit of local sports, of their cultural sports in the middle, which is, I think, a major attraction. And it identifies with the region, it identifies, still you're playing football and still everything is taking place. So I think there is a need to look at that. It may not work, that's a separate issue. When it comes to management, the financial establishments and the, let's say, the ecosystems which develop around soccer, I'm sure that as and when the policies and procedures or the readapted policies and procedures come into place, these systems will adapt. That I'm sure. But it cannot be the other way around, to my mind. That based on the procedures of these management systems and let's say the financial systems, football must adapt itself or soccer must adapt itself. That somewhere down the line I will not accept that. Technology, a lot of things have been spoken by Mandar and Shaji, and number of other panelists. I think very interesting. But what I would only like to add here is, it's a smart word. Everybody is short on time. Are we going to look at a 3-hour schedule for football, which takes coming to a football ground, 90 minutes plus of play, and then going back and crowds and this and that? Are we looking at that? Or are we looking at something different in the future? I think somewhere down the line, an opportunity has come to reevaluate, re-evolve, and let's say reinvent football in the manner in which we look at it. There is a lot of, every panelist has spoken about localizing, including AIFF, Secretary General. We are already aware of national level circuits and things which are taking place. Somewhere down the line, I feel the regional level issues are weak. And also, what I've known of is the continental systems are very weak. Earlier, there used to be Merdeka tournament and things like that. It used to create some ripples. But today, somewhere down the line, the continental systems have drifted away. It's either international or national or various clubs which are playing and things like that. So maybe there is a need to redefine, relook at even the continental tournaments in that manner. There are some, I'm not saying to say, but probably much more can be done. I would also like to say that we have spoken, a number of panelists have spoken about organized and let's say not so organized sectors. I think there is a need for the football fraternity to look at the not so organized sectors also with a little closer way, because there are a lot of opportunities in that. I'm from a village. I know what happens there. There is huge opportunity, but we are not going there. So I think there are things which you can look at. And even in the organized sector, the earlier powerhouses of soccer, which used to be there, like the services, the railways, the Fagwada mills, and so many other, one can go on naming them. Somewhere down the line, these seem to have disintegrated and gone into a sort of background because probably the rules are not structured accordingly to allow them to flourish and come back into the mainstream. And last but not the least, if I may say, what I have seen is the Indian system is based on the job market. Jobs come, lots of agencies, and where whoever is providing jobs have got a certain sort of set of rules, regulations which are assigned. And I'm sure if there are more tournaments, there are more systems, more and more people will venture into that and fit into the bracket to get those particular kinds of jobs, and it will help people. Probably it will encourage more people. And last but not the least, very correctly brought out by Shahji, I think in this new order, post-corona, soccer must become a means for social healing and not disturbing the social order that seems to be there in the environment. Thanks a lot. These are some of my views, and my delightful to hear all the panelists and their views. And thanks a lot to Anirban, to Shahji, to Henry, and Mandar. Thanks a lot. Wonderful knowing you.
Thank you, sir. So I feel we have time for one last question for Anirban sir. Anirban sir, how do you feel that sports science education would now play a major role into the world which is post-COVID, especially in football?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Look, sports science in India is still evolving, but is an integral part of this entire sporting ecosystem. Both sports medicine and science, both have been recognized as a specialized field in this country. Whereas sports physician, they are responsible for health and well-being of the athlete, and the sports scientist, they are responsible for training, monitoring, and performance enhancement. And it is needless to say that almost all our national teams, our professional clubs, they have their own scientific support staff to look after them. But there is one hiatus that I have found is the requirement to specialize our sports scientist in a sports specific way. So that is a need of the hour now. Because we all know that each sport has some unique demand which can only be mastered through a sport-specific approach. Now, currently in India, there are very few sport-specific courses available. Hence, I believe that we can use this time to enhance our knowledge and to learn from our peers specialized in particular sports. I'm giving you a very small example. In National Institute of Sports, we have conducted a national camp for football, women football, 2-3 years back. We don't usually conduct national football camp here. There are 35 athletes from our national women team. They are with us. And we have done 7 weeks thorough sport-specific assessment of all the athletes. Based on their, and some functional assessment was done based on their position also. And you won't believe that all the coaching staff, we have received an overwhelming response from them. They have engaged their players for almost 7 days to do all these sports specific assessment. We do all assessment, a generalized assessment for each and every athlete. But what I am trying to focus is the sports specific assessment. And because of that, you can do some sports specific research also. So one approach that we can do is to develop an online capsule course so that all our sports scientists can upgrade their knowledge, which will be a short-term course, of course, because they have their basic degrees and basic knowledge and all. What we need, an online capsule course, sports specific. So that they can do that while continuing their regular activity also. This should always give them a confidence to work in a dedicated field. And at the same time, I believe they can update themselves with the latest evidence and the current best practice guidelines. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Anirban. I mean, yeah, correct. So this probably Henry sir might be thinking this could be something which can be sort of part of CPD also, sir, at a later point of time. Yeah. So thank you all for all the panelists, esteemed panelists, for taking out your time, for being there with us. We have another good news is that, I mean, obviously the panelists will already know for the attendees that we have just bagged the AFC 2022 Women's Cup, and that would be something which will be an excellent addition to all the already prestigious events India has done. That would be an excellent opportunity. So next for the panelists, we have a quiz coming up, so which will be hosted by Ganeshan. And that is for the attendees. And so the attendees, please stay online. Ganeshan is going to explain in detail the quiz. I thank all the panelists again for your time, and we look forward to having more and more in-depth conversations with you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Ganeshan Ramanathan, one of the coordinators for this Global Soccer e-conclave. For all the attendees and delegates, we would like to have a separate dimension in this Global Soccer e-conclave. So this looks at the entire evolution of Indian football and how it has evolved over the past 100 years. So I'll be just sharing. Based on the developments of Indian football over the last 100 years, the delegates will be posed with a set of 5 questions specific to each time block. So when I show you the time blocks, it starts from 1880 right up to 2020, divided into 6 time blocks. As you can see, starting from when football was introduced during the colonial era, then moving on to 1920 with the club culture and when an actual football rivalry started. Then moving on to obviously the golden era when the coach inspired Indian football to go to the next level. And after that, we had a set of club performances, the likes of Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, and other esteemed clubs who were attaining Santosh Trophy and other major club tournaments in the country, followed by the introduction of the National Football League and the commercial aspects around the game. And in the modern era, we have seen the Indian Super League, which has come to grade 4. So as a precursor to this time block, I would like to take you back a century ago and give an understanding about the origin of the beautiful game. So the first time block would be the pre-independence era, which started in 1980. This period highlights the introduction of football by the British rulers, and a person by the name Nagendra Prasad Sarabadikari was the actual pioneer. He was the father of Indian football and he was instrumental in promoting it. And first, he understood the game, learned the rules which were enforced by the British soldiers, and he found several clubs such as Soy Bazaar Club and Wellington Club. Then coming on to 1888, we had the Durand Cup. This was the major football tournament introduced in Asia, during which Calcutta FC was the first Indian club to be introduced. Subsequently, we had the Rovers Cup in Bombay. This was the first time the game had moved out of Calcutta and was making inroads in the country. It became slowly popular among regions such as Kerala and Hyderabad as well. In 1893, the IFA Shield was introduced as the fourth oldest competition in India. This club competition was launched by the Indian Football Association, which was looking at the entire spectrum of the game in the country with the objective of promoting the sport. And as a precursor, we also had various clubs at that time who would actually perform really well in these tournaments. The actual breakthrough in the footballing context of India came in 1911. But before that, we had a state association in Bombay called the Western India Football Association, which was formed in 1902. This came after a merger between BFA as well as the old Rovers Cup committee in Maharashtra. From then onwards, it did become popular in different regions. There were more number of cup competitions. There were more number of players who were playing football bare feet and also getting the same amount of exposure through the British rule. In 1911, we had the first and foremost introduction to football through Mohun Bagan when they were defeating the East Yorkshire Regiments in 1911. They defeated them 2-1 in the IFA Shield final, which was a long-lasting memory of major fans at that point of time. This actually created a very big revolution for all the football fans at that time. We were having a lot of people gathering to watch Mohun Bagan play as well as other teams. So this would actually be a major breakthrough, so to say, and football would only grow from that height. And after clinching this major achievement, Indian football would be looking at the next transition, which I would be talking about in the subsequent sessions. And the quiz competition for all the delegates and the attendees would be after the block from 1920 to 1947 in the pre-independence era. So this is exactly how Indian football was introduced in the country and how the British played a major role in influencing the Indians. So with this brief understanding about the game, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Global Soccer E-Conclave, all the delegates and everyone to understand this journey. And I look forward to hosting the interesting quiz in the subsequent sessions. Thank you. Just for the information of all the delegates, the questions will be posed to all of you from the next time block, that is 1920 to 1947. Set of 5 questions each, and you'll be having only 15 seconds to answer each question. Thank you.
Hi, Ganeshan. So, for the attendees, we'd like to tell you that the next session will begin at 2 after this quiz gets over. So we'll take a break and you will get the new links for the webinar. That is the second session.
For all the delegates, you can leave the session at the moment. We'll start the quiz from the next time block as mentioned earlier, after the next session gets over. Thank you.